Alright, I'm in a Baltic forest, about a kilometre from the sea. The sea is over that way, might be 2 kilometres. I've crisscrossed a lot here, but I can hear the distant sound of the waves, and this is a very nice place, very, very peaceful. I bought a copy of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. I bought it 2 days ago, and yesterday I was checking in to a room. It's one of the cheapest rooms in this city. I had been in an apartment for a few days, but that was booked up for the weekend, and my plan was to travel north, but I have a chest infection. It's the first time I've been sick in a year and a half, so I've been doing quite well. I've been counting my lucky stars, but yeah, it's a nasty one. I can't seem to shake it off, and I decided that I would put off travelling north until Monday, so I'll be here for the weekend. It's Friday today. Right, the wind is picking up here because I'm in a clearing. I'll try and get into a more sheltered area. I might sit down here actually. Let's see. All right. So yeah, I arrived early to check in to this place yesterday, and I had told the owner through the website that I would be arriving early, but she never responded, so I wasn't sure if she would let me check in early or whether I'd have to wait, or if she was going to get back to me at all. And it was one of those self-check-in places, so the keys are in a little safe outside the building, and you have to put in the code to open the door and take out the key, etc. So I sent her a text telling her I'd arrived, and she gave me the code. I went in, and it looked like the room wasn't ready, and she phoned me just after I'd entered. She phoned me and said, the room isn't ready. And I told her, well, no problem. I said, I'll head back out for a few hours, but I'll just leave my suitcases here if that's okay. And she said, yeah, that's fine. But anyway, while I was waiting, because I'd arrived, I said I'd check in at 1, and I arrived at about 12:30. So I sat across from the building. It was like a low cement wall. I sat down and I started reading a few more pages of Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And I was on a part about distractions, and it was saying more or less, whatever you do, don't be distracted. Don't let your thinking crumble, this type of thing. And as I saw the word distraction, as I was looking at that word, there were 3 teenage schoolboys walking by on the other side of the street, and I got the sense they were looking at me. They were saying something in Latvian, and I looked up and I just put my hands up to them as if to say, I don't understand. So they were actually addressing me, and then they said in English, money, you have money? And I said, no money. And they walked on, and I thought, right, that was a distraction. Now back to the book. So I looked down again at that word distraction, and an old Russian man with a bicycle, he was walking by with his bicycle, he started asking me something in Russian. I told him I didn't understand, and I don't know what the hell he was on about. I think he wasn't well mentally. I think he wasn't well. and he was asking me questions then in very broken English, and it was strange because he was, he was standing right over me. I was sitting down on that low wall. He was standing over me, a bit too close for my liking. He was asking lots of questions, and I said to him, "Are you a policeman?" And I knew he'd understand police, and he was like, "No, no, no." And then he pointed at his bicycle as if to say, "I'm just a poor old man." And he was looking for a light for a cigarette. That's what he was looking for, in the end. But I told him, I said, "Look, I have to send a message here to the host, or hostess in this case." And I said, "It's nice to meet you," and all the rest. And he just stood there for another few minutes. And I looked up. He was still looking at me, and I said to him again, "Look, man, I need to send a message. Goodbye," and all that. And he kept hovering. And then eventually, I was a bit more firm with him. I didn't want to be firm with him, but he was just hanging around, and he understood, and he said, "Okay, bye bye," and he went off. But yeah, I was thinking, how you get this advice in a book, but in many cases it doesn't tally with the real world. The real world is full of distractions. Yeah. Later, anyway, when I went out, I left, after I'd left the suitcases in, and I went for a walkabout, I saw that old Russian man again at a bus stop. And I was wearing my glasses this time, so I could see him a bit better, and he had it looked like he had a part of his forehead missing or something, and it was red, like as though it had been recently bleeding. Yeah. Anyway, when I was looking up places to stay for this weekend, I was looking at the reviews. I was looking at the latest reviews for the place, and I saw one, and it was related to the place I'm in now. And it was a woman who gave it, I think the top score is 10, and the worst score you can give is 1. And a disgruntled customer, a woman, had given it a 1, and she'd written a long piece about how bad the place was. And I saw the response from the hostess, and she said, "You stayed at the cheapest place in the city, and you stayed here on a weekend. For 20 euros more a night, you could have got something more in your line. Next time you come to this city, spend more money, and maybe you'll be happier." And I was very impressed with this response by the hostess. And I was thinking of this customer. I've no idea who she is, but I was thinking of that mindset, that she would book a room, the cheapest room in the city, and go there with the highest expectations, as if she had just booked into the Ritz. She was probably expecting, I don't know, a horse and carriage outside the property. She's probably expecting a sauna and a swimming pool. God only knows. But I was trying to understand this type of person. It's very difficult to understand these people. These people, they cause so much damage in the world, and they're never really held to account. And when they are, they don't seem to understand what they're doing. This woman was obviously very bitter, and she had decided that she was going to try to destroy the hostess's business by giving her a 1, which would, would bring down the score, especially if you only have 15 or 20 reviews. Let's say you're new to the game and someone gives you a 1. Like, that could be devastating for your business, because other people in the future are going to look at the reviews and say, oh my god, this property only has a 6 point something. Another property of a similar price has an 8.1. We'll book into the 8.1 place. We won't bother with the 6 point something. I know that men can do this as well, but from my experience it seems to be mostly women who will emotionally try to destroy somebody. I could imagine, I'm trying to think myself, if I go to a place and I'm going to judge it by the price as well. So if I give it a good rating, I'm also taking into account how much it has cost me to stay there. And when it's very, very cheap, my expectations are not going to be high. Therefore, the likelihood of it getting a higher grade from me is more probable once it's not, rat infested or something. I can imagine you would look, you're giving it a score, maybe you're taking in various aspects, and then you add it up and say, well, I wasn't too impressed. Like the window was difficult to open, or maybe the window, you couldn't close the window, so there was a security risk because it was a ground floor dwelling. Or maybe the hot water was lukewarm, it wasn't hot. You could take in different things, different factors, and maybe instead of giving it 9 or 10, you might give it 6 or 7, 7.5, whatever. But to give a place a 1, that's not someone, in my opinion, who's taking different things into account. They're not saying, when I went in, the hostess had left chocolates on the pillow. They're not taking into account that it cost them very little to stay there. They're not taking into account that the bed was comfortable. No, it's something personal. They want to destroy that person's business. As someone who's published books on Amazon under different pseudonyms, different genres, there was a short story I published years ago. I don't know how many pages it was, maybe 10 pages. I won't go too much into the story, but it was just fiction, ordinary fiction. I made it free to download a few years ago, and I'll just wait for this to pass over. I think there's another one coming. I made it free to download, and someone downloaded it somewhere in the world, and they left a 1-star review. They left a 1-star review. I think on Amazon the max is 5. They left a 1. And then they actually wrote out a very short review. It's just a fragment. They said, I'm guessing this is a romance book or something like this, a romance story. And that was their review. They didn't read the short story that they got for free. They downloaded it for free, saw the title, and said, I don't think this is the book for me. Here's the 1-star review. And that's it. That short story will always have a low rating now. It will never, I think it will never gain any attention. It's in the basement. It's in the dustbin of history because some gobshite decided to give it a 1-star review even though they hadn't read the book. Well, short story. It's an ebook. So yeah, you often wonder, how is it possible that we have these people who go from place to place and try to destroy other people and other people's businesses? And I hate to say it, but these people are very, very common. We saw it during the scamdemic how common these people were, don't stand close to me. I don't want you to infect me. Please wear a face mask. Please, I don't want myself to get sick. You have this sense of entitlement at all times. So there you go. Latvia. Meditations. Teenage schoolboys asking you for money. An old Russian man with his bicycle asking for a light for a cigarette, possibly with part of his brain missing. And women, entitled women, destroying lives every second of the day. On the plus side, the Baltic forest does look nice.